What's up, everybody? We are here for another episode of Video Game Collectors on Call. And today's guest, you've probably seen him on TikTok, you've seen him on YouTube, some other social media accounts. We have DMCPCRT with us today. How's it going, man?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. So I'm excited to chat with you. I've watched some of your content. You have a wide range of gaming content that you do, right?
Yeah. I try to cover a lot of different things from, retro gaming was the original plan, and then I really started doing a lot of arcade content, which started to do really well. The arcade challenges, I'm not sure if you ever saw any of those. And then, with PC being in the name, I try to put computers in as much as I can, and, just anything gaming related if I can, yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask, DMC PCRT, where did this come from? What does it mean? Does it mean anything?
So the DMC, I think, was like psychosomatic or whatever, because I was coming up with the name, and I knew I wanted to focus on PCs, and I wanted to do CRTs. That was like my thing. I wanted to talk about that. And I was like, all right, well, I have a degree in cybersecurity and stuff. I'm like, well, I don't want to use my initials. Like, let's DMC. I guess that'll work. And Devil May Cry probably was in my mind when I was doing it because I like those games and stuff. So that's the DMC means nothing though. So really, it's just the PC and CRT that actually matters. But most people call me DMC nowadays, so now I can't get rid of that part. That's the funniest part.
I mean, you could have just went with PCRT though.
I could have, but it was too short. I think there was a character like it had to be a certain amount when I was making the account. So
I see.
was like, all right, I got to throw something in front of it. So
and we talked a little bit beforehand that you might be changing the name around. Is that something that we want to talk about here?
We've been shopping stuff for a while. I always joke that my brother, he goes by that retro guy, is like my producer. We always joke about that. But we've been putting names back and forth. I'm kind of leaning towards one Maximum Cartridge. I kind of like that, but
that's a good one.
My system I have the most games for is a PlayStation 2. So I'm like, well, I don't know if that really works. But
no, that's a good one. I like that one. You have to copyright that one, so if anyone's watching, they don't steal it. So that's DMC PCRT has that copyrighted, guys. So
thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk about collecting. So, in terms of collecting, what are the things that you like to collect?
So, when I got into the whole like retro thing, I guess the full story, if you will, I had a collection for a while, not a huge one, but I had one, and I ended up getting rid of most of it because I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to emulate. So I built a little computer inside of an NES actually to do emulation for a bunch of the retro consoles and all that, and after a few years, I just kind of fell off of it and really didn't do the retro thing too much. But then one day I was like, man, I really want to play Gran Turismo 4 for the PlayStation 2. And I'm like, I don't want to emulate it, though. And a buddy of mine who's into just a bunch of vintage tech and old tech and all that kind of stuff, he just started being like, well, why don't you get a CRT? And I was like, yeah, why don't I get a CRT? So I ended up getting a little 9-inch CRT, a little Toshiba with a DVD player built in, and that just started everything. So the PlayStation 2 was like my original focus, and I'm like, I'm not going to do the NES, I'm not going to do the Super Nintendo. But if you can see behind me over there, I got into the Super Nintendo, I got into the NES, and
isn't that how it always works, right? You start, you're like, oh, I'm only gonna do this, and then now you're collecting for like 16 different consoles and handhelds, and you're like, where did all my money go, right? It's
exactly.
Like, so what's
then,
your?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
So then, like, the actual, like, as, you're finding your way as you're collecting, like, am I going to be a complete in-box collector? I'm not a sealed guy. That's not my thing. I don't do sealed games. I've fallen into a few. We can talk about that for sure. But yeah, so I was, kind of find my way, and I love controllers. I've always been a controller person. So, complete in-box or new in-box controllers, I like to collect those if I can. I think I've got 5 different PlayStation 2 controllers that are new in the box. One that's eluded me for a while is the GameCube controller. Those are super expensive, probably because of Smash players. So finding those ones, sealed is tough. But I've got a couple of Dreamcast, PlayStation. As you can see, PlayStation 1 through 5. I've got one new in box for all of them at least. PlayStation 1, I've got a couple. PlayStation 2, I have the most for. So yeah, and then just other different controllers in general, rare ones, weird ones, obscure ones, not all like the third party junky ones, because there are some just bad controllers, but I'm the youngest of 4, so like I'm used to playing on third party controllers.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay, I got you. What's you said weird controllers, so I like seeing weird stuff. Do you have an example of a weird controller?
I do have a weird controller. I've got 2 that I'd like to show you. So the first one here, this might not look too weird to you. So this is just a black NES controller, right? This thing's worth $200. This is the Game Television NES controller. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen this before, but there was a TV with a built-in NES back in the 80s and 90s, and these controllers are super hard to find. And yeah, so it looks like a simple NES controller, but it's actually, if you look closer, it says Game Television on it. It has no branding for the actual NES on it. So those are really hard to come by. And then my personal favorite.
Do you have the Game Television that goes with, or just?
I don't. No, okay. I don't. I had an opportunity to get it. Local game store, Retro Taku. They had one in for $1,000, but it's just like. It's not a great CRT. That's the funniest thing, because it's got a tube built in, but it's just not the best quality one out there. And I'm like, I've already got, I think, 13 CRTs right now, so I don't need one of those. I'd rather put that $1,000 elsewhere. So
okay, how many PCs do you have? Since you're PCRT, how many?
In the office, there's 1, 2, 3. There's a laptop behind me. There's a Raspberry Pi. Right there.
Okay, that's more than I thought. I was like, I got 2, but okay, very good.
I built my kids some. I have one in my living room. So yeah, I'm a big. I before the memory shortage that we're all seeing right now, some of the content I like to do was like ultra budget computers. So like I have a project PC, whole setup that I put together for. It was like $217 or something like that. That was the whole system. Nowadays, you can get RAM for $200.
You seem like since I said I've seen some of your content. You seem very well versed in like the electronics aspect, like the wires and the stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know the best way to put it, but.
I mean, I'm not an electrician, so don't ask me about like rounding and stuff like that. But when it comes to building a computer, especially, it's never been easier as far as putting them together. Yeah. And one thing I want to try, like when I was getting into this, is that I wanted to show people like it's not that hard. Don't be scared. It's Legos that take electricity at the end of the day, so it's not too bad.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because the first time I ever knew you existed. I was watching Matty Nui, actually.
Okay.
Shout out to Matty Nui.
Great person.
And he was talking about something to do with like switching between different. I don't know if you remember this. This is probably been a couple years now.
Switcher conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this was like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. It's been a while, but yeah. And I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty cool. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I popped in on that live.
You did.
You went live together.
You were video. Yeah.
So yeah, it was that's been the whole thing with the CRTs. So when it came to content creation and all that too, originally I just wanted to make like retro content. That was the thing. And then I was scrolling on TikTok because my niece was coming over, because it was during COVID times. So she was coming over. She was part of our pod, as you say, to help watch the kids while I was working, because they couldn't go to daycare, And so she was 15 or 14, so she was just sending me funny TikToks, and I had to keep going to a browser, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna install the app instead of like opening a browser every single time. And then I'm like, all right, now I gotta make an account and all this stuff. But as I was scrolling, after I like started kind of getting the idea, there was a person who posted something of like saying like, watching my boyfriend play video games on TikTok live, it's just so fun, or something like that. And it was her significant other, boyfriend, whatever, and he had a tripod with a cell phone pointed at a screen. And that's how he was going live. And I'm like, well, I want to play on a CRT. Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to do that. So then my goal was like, all right, I need to get to it, because back then you had to have 1,000 followers before you could go live. So I'm like, all right, if I can get 1,000 followers on this platform, then I can go live and do that. So anyway, going to this is just an eternal project. You can see cords all over. I always joke that one of the big things with content creation is you never have enough cords, or you're always running new ones. So yeah, it's always been a lot of trial and error. So when it comes to like using retro systems on modern stuff, like doing real hardware captures and things like that, I'd like to say I know a little bit about it, just because I've tried a lot of different things. So,
that's good. Yeah. I think we got sidetracked. You were going to show a second controller, and we've digressed for like 5 minutes here. But
I
love
love to talk. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
no, you're good. I love to listen.
This one is a rare controller, and you can see it here. It's a Mega Man X controller for the GameCube, and I say it's rare because I've never seen more than 2 or 3 out in the wild. But it's still new. I got this when I was, 14, 15 or something like that.
Okay, for a second I thought the spear was the controller. And I was like, how do you use that thing? But okay.
But yeah, no, it's a beautiful controller. Like, it's got really nice design on it. Like, the gem in the middle lights up like Mega Man X's head there, so that actually lights up. And it's a really cool looking controller. And I think the last time I saw it was over $200 as well. There was another one made that was a Shadow the Hedgehog controller, and I remember being in GameStop because my dad was going to buy us some Christmas gifts late, essentially, and he was like, "You can pick one," and I was like, "Shadow, or do I want Mega Man?" I was really into Mega Man at the time, so I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go with Mega Man." And for some reason, I never used it. I just kept it on a shelf. And I still have it on a shelf, and it's one of those things that, like, at this point, I'm never going to use it because it's just such a cool piece. But
Yeah.
yeah. So when it comes to like those kind of controllers, I'm a big fan. You know, with that you see the Halo Xbox up there. I'm trying to get 4 total Halo Xbox controllers. They're the exact same green as the other ones, but it just has a badge that says Halo and makes it $50 more.
Okay.
But
We
yeah, so like those kind of things.
we don't talk about controllers a lot on my show, which is great because there
Love
are some really
controllers.
rare and cool controller stuff. So let me ask you then. So what is your favorite controller? Let's just talk basic. Like, you know, if you're talking about an Xbox, a PS2, a GameCube, what's your favorite controller, best made controller of all time in your opinion?
For the longest time I was saying the Xbox 360, but the Xbox One and Series controller has won me over. It's such a comfortable controller. The PlayStation 5 controller gets a lot of love, like it is a good controller. It's really heavy though. I feel like the weight on the Xbox Series and One controller now is some of the best. I love the way the triggers feel. They go in nice and smooth. It is a very smooth, comfortable experience. I like the texture on a lot of the controllers. That's probably my number one. When it comes to the classic controllers, then it's probably the Super Nintendo because, you know, that one's a good one. Although I've recently started playing more Saturn games, and the Saturn controller is probably one of the most underrated controllers with the 6 buttons on the front and then
Yeah.
the 2 shoulders and stuff. It's a
I could
very
see that.
comfortable controller as well, so that's solid.
Let's go the opposite. What's the worst controller, you know?
Atari, I don't think there's ever any Atari sticks
Okay.
that are good these days, but that's, you know, that's obvious. The regular NES controller is not great in my opinion. There's a lot of flaws with it. You can tell I talked about this. You know, the cord isn't in the center; it's actually offset. So when you're actually holding onto it, you know, one of your fingers is going to be touching the cord on the top. It's got the sharper edges, you could say, so they kind of dig into your hands and things like that. I'm a big fan of Retro Fighters controllers. I love the modern takes on, you know, classic systems, so I use a lot of theirs. They have a Sega Genesis controller, which I bought. They didn't send me that one, and it's one of my favorite retro controllers out there because it's got a stick on it, even though it's still a D-pad technically, like it's not an analog stick. It just makes for so many Sega Genesis games, like, you know, if you have to move around in a bigger rotation, way more comfortable, and I like that controller a lot. So yeah, you know, I love the modern takes on retros, but yeah, the worst one, yeah, is probably the NES. I know a lot of people won't agree with me on that one, but I think there's so many little things that could be better. So.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. What about, is there a controller that you don't have that you like what's the holy grail of controllers in your opinion? Yeah, is there
I guess you could say like you know, like those Sonic and Knuckles controllers that were out a couple years ago that were the furry ones. Those ones were like really hot for people to try and get. Like they actually had fur on them. They were a promotion for Sonic 2, the movie.
Okay.
So they were promotion controllers. And then you've just got like those obscure, you know, giveaway controllers or, you know, limited edition ones that came with systems. Like I think the Simpsons Xbox 360 has a controller. You know, those are the ones that are like, okay, the chainsaw controller for Resident Evil 4. Everybody thinks
I got one right over there. Yeah,
and it's funny because I know you don't like Resident Evil 4 that much, but I love Resident Evil 4. It's my favorite, and I don't actually want it. I don't want that controller.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people have asked, like, "Are you gonna get that?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I think about it, and then I see the price tag, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to spend 400, 500 on that. You know.
Yeah. So you say Resident Evil 4 is your favorite. So let me ask you a question because I have a theory, and you probably heard my theory. But did you grow up playing Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, or did you start with Resident Evil 4? Okay.
Yep. So the first Resident Evil I played was Resident Evil 2. We rented it, and we had to be on a wait list for the rental for it because it was, you know, such a hot game when it came out. And and then I played Resident Evil 1 over at my my uncle's house. And you know, it's one of those things, like I played Vice City before Grand Theft Auto 3, so there was just some of those little like quality of life things in 2 over 1 where I was like, oh, this is a little tricky. Like I don't understand. Plus, I think I played as Chris, where you have 2 less inventory slots instead of Jill, so like that was also a little bit, you know, of a thing. But so yeah, no, Resident Evil 4. I think it's because it kind of pulled me back in after being out for a little while of Resident Evil. So, but I just love it. I've beaten it. I say at this point I've beaten Resident Evil 4 over 40 times. So
have you played 9? I assume you have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We played the Switch 2 version. I thought it was good. I think 9 out of 10 is what it is. It's a pretty darn solid game. I liked Grace's sections, I think, more than Leon's.
Yeah.
You know, I love Leon. He's one of my favorite characters, but I really liked the claustrophobic feel of playing as Grace. Like Resident Evil 7's also up there as one of my favorites. Because I love that first half of RE7 inside the house is just so good. So
yeah, I think it's, you know, and I've said this before, it's a good game, but I don't know if it's a good Resident Evil game in terms of the whole storyline. So, but yeah, it's definitely good. So, let's talk more about like consoles and stuff. So, do you have a favorite console of all time?
So yeah, my favorite's the PlayStation 2. It's the one I'm the most nostalgic for, I think, because I was 10 or 11 when it was really hitting its stride. We didn't get it until I was 13, I think, but we got it when Vice City came out. But it's the one I have the most games for. It's the system I have the most games for. I've got, I think, 4 or 5 PlayStation 2s now. I've got a fat in the box. I've got a slim in the box, 2 of them in the box, and then a silver and a black just loose. And yeah, it's just I love the PlayStation 2. Being able to play the PlayStation 1 games is awesome. It's just it's got such a great library. And what's cool now with this renaissance of like indie games that are coming into this 3D is I have this conversation where I'm like, hey, some of these games, if they were to release them today, like for the first time, they probably still hold up. You know what I mean? And it's like we played Onimusha the other day, or not the other day, but like about a year or two ago. And I thought that one, especially with the rise of Souls games, I don't really care for Souls games too much, but it was a difficult, timing based parries. You have to make sure you land at the right time kind of thing. I'm like, I bet you if this came out today for $20 as a new entry, people would love it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's cool. I think a lot of PlayStation 2 games have aged really well. It's not early 3D like the 90s. It's, they were kind of figuring it out more. So
yeah. Do you have a favorite game of all time?
Resident Evil 4, it's up there. It's just one that I always go back to.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I can beat it in over like 2.5 hours, or right around 2.5 hours, on a New Game Plus. The Wii version in particular, or the VR version actually on the Oculus. I bought the headset for the VR version. So
I've not played the VR version. That's okay.
It's so good. It's so
sounds
good.
Like it. Yeah. So I just want to add, I don't think Resident Evil 4 is a bad game. I just don't think it's my favorite Resident Evil of all of them. So, and I think that has a lot to do with nostalgia and what I grew up playing. And much like you with Resident Evil 4, I played a lot of Resident Evil 2 when I was growing up. So I played
2's right up there, though. Yeah. I always say, like, we as Resident Evil fans are very lucky because we have 3 awesome. How many Porsches can you have? You know what I mean? Like, it's great.
Yeah.
You got Resident Evil 1 through Code Veronica, if you will. If you love that style, bam. And you got 0 in there, too. And then, you got 4 through 6. Okay, we can leave 6 off. And then you got 7 through 9, and then you got Revelations mixed in and some spin-offs and all that. So, it's great. It's a buffet. It's great. I love it.
Plus all the remakes, right? So
and then you got the remakes.
Yeah. So I don't want to get too much into Resident Evil because hopefully, if you're watching, we're going to have an episode where I have someone we talk about Resident Evil, or Resident Evil super collector, if you will. But
awesome.
So let's talk more about arcade stuff because I know you do a lot of that as well. So what are some of your favorite arcade games?
So, like, if it comes to classic arcade games, I really like. Golly, I was always a ticket kid. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was growing up, I was definitely into the ticket games and things like that. But I did play like The Simpsons growing up, so like I love seeing that, and it was great. We went to an arcade recently, my kids were playing it, and like I said in the video, they got further than I ever did, so that was really cool to see. There was I want to say it was a Namco shooting game where like the mug would appear and you'd have to shoot it with a light gun and it would blast the mug. Like it was an actual.
Is that Point Blank? That's not Point Blank, is it?
I'm not sure what the name of it is, honestly. Okay. I'm forgetting right now.
Yeah.
But I always loved that one. Skee ball. I'm a skee ball guy. Okay. I actually made it a mission in the past year to try and consistently beat the high scores when I go to arcades to do skee ball. But a lot of like the classic fighting games, Mortal Kombat 2, if I ever see one of those, I definitely love hopping on that for a bit. And really, I think off-road, if you were to ask me, like, you have to play one. I love the stand-up off-road cab. I love that one because it's it's got the 3 players on it, and it's you got the wheel. It's just such a fun game. Like off-road is a really good arcade game, and I'm sure a lot of people were expecting Turtles and stuff like that. I was always bad at Turtles on the arcade, so it was not my preferred game.
And you do a lot of challenges, right? Where you're trying to win so many tickets to get things. Give some advice to the audience if there's one game you want to play. What's the go-to game to get all the tickets? Like, what do you want to focus on? Is there one?
There is one, yeah. There's one for sure. The I guess you could say like the ticket winning community hates it when people talk about it, but it is the Minions Jelly Lab game. Some people call it an infinite because really, if you get the timing down, it is a game where if you learn the timing, you can just win over and over and over. When we did,
that's the one where the coin rolls down, right, and it goes on the little mat, and you win the cards essentially. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So if you get the timing right, where it lands on the card, you can just do it endlessly as long as you get the timing right. And when we did the Switch 2 challenge, that's what we played, and I think I had like a 45 or 40% success rate. So like almost every other coin I was getting a card, which is at minimum 50 tickets. So that's the easiest one I think you can learn to play and win. So.
And how long did it take you to get a Switch 2 from start to finish?
That took about over 5 hours of gameplay. We took a little break
Okay.
so like I could like eat something.
Okay. Oh, you did it in one visit? Okay.
Yep, we
I
did the
gotcha.
Switch 2 on one visit. We were live the entire time I was playing, and then when we redeemed
Wow.
it as well. So yeah, we won 175,000 tickets in about 5 or 6 hours, I'd say. So
Okay. Okay. What is one of the worst games you have ever played? That's
Okay.
my favorite question to ask. So
So I hate to dog on it, but is for
Uh-oh.
Wednesday nights when we do streams, we do subscribers choice games. So anybody who's a subscriber, they can suggest up to 2 games that are about 15 hours in length. We spin a wheel, 3 get landed on, they vote, and then we go from there. We played Jaws Unleashed for the PlayStation 2.
Okay.
It's a licensed game in the early 2000s, so the odds were stacked against it, and it was clunky, very repetitive. They have a line where it was like something's in the water or something like that, and instead of having multiple people record it rather, they just slowed it down or sped it up. So it was like the same person doing it, but it would be like something's in the water or something's in the water, and it was just so frequent. And it controlled real poorly. The directions weren't that great. Checkpoints were unfair. It just wasn't an overall good game. And then but I try to find a positive in any game that I'm playing. So
Sure.
like Underwater was great. Like, it had to be open world because that was the big thing. So like in between missions, you could just swim around in the ocean or the lake, I think, actually, because that's where Jaws takes place, is in a lake.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yep. So you could swim around in there, and that was cool. Like underwater, they had a bunch of different fish and sea life and all that kind of stuff. So like that was nice. But the rest of the game, like it ain't good.
So,
that's
so
definitely one of the worst.
you play as the shark?
You
Or
play as
you're-
Jaws, yeah. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And you have to like
And
eat people and destroy,
Okay.
like gas tankers and stuff. It's really odd.
I don't talk about board games a lot on this show, but I have a huge board game collection, and there's a Jaws board game that is actually really fun too. If you're out there, you like board games, it's essentially one person plays as Jaws, 3 people play as the fisherman or whatever in the boat, and you can't see where Jaws is on the map, but they move around, try to find Jaws, and they're trying to basically kill each other, or unalive each other. I think that's what I have to say on this. I don't know, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, so
That's cool.
Yeah. Controller wise, so we showed like some controllers. Do you have like any, I guess, how do I ask this? Not necessarily controllers, but things like, you have like dance mats, or you have microphones, like other
Peripherals?
For consoles, yeah.
As far as like ones I'm looking for or ones that I have. I should have
Ones you
pulled them
have.
out.
That's okay. Some
They're,
cool
they're
ones
in,
that you
they're in
have.
my closet. One of my favorite is the Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles pistol for the Wii.
Okay.
There was,
Yeah.
if you remember, they had like the weird zapper, they called it. That was the Nintendo branded one. Well, Capcom came out with their own version of it, and it's it's branded Resident Evil, and it's gunmetal and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a neat zapper because it looks much more like a pistol. A dream one that I'd like to get is they actually released one that is a revolver, like it looks like Barry's revolver. And instead of just like a regular like nunchuck silicone thing, it's actually a knife. Like it's shaped like a knife from Resident Evil. So you have
cool.
the revolver in one hand and the knife in the other, and it's a neat little thing. I don't have it. I want one. But yeah, that's my favorite peripheral. Like as far as just the odd ones go, is the Resident Evil ones. So.
Do you have some more stuff nearby from your collection to show
I
off?
do. I
Okay,
do.
cool.
I
Let's
didn't
do
know
it.
if there was any
Yeah.
specific questions you want to talk about or anything like
No,
that.
we
'cause
can
I was prepared.
Yeah, keep rolling. Yeah.
All right, so-
this is my favorite part of the show is seeing things I've never seen before. So
That's what I was trying to do.
that's-
So let's start with.
And I've not seen a lot, so it's
Let's start with something a little bit more pedestrian, if you will. But this right here is the JVC XI
Okay.
or XI.
Yep.
Have you ever seen this one before?
I have seen one. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah,
haven't.
so-
It's rather obscure in the States. There's estimates it sold 50,000 up to 500,000. Who knows? That might be including the Wonder Mega, as it's known across the pond and in Japan. But what it is, it's a Sega CD and Sega Genesis all in one.
Yep.
What's really cool about it is that the repairability of it is super easy because it used JVC off-the-shelf parts for the actual disk drive. So if you ever need to fix it, it's super easy to do. And they actually had parts available up until just a couple of years ago. Like you could contact JVC and say, hey, I need a new drive belt for it. And they'd be like, all right, here you go. They even for a while were selling a custom lid so you could put a 32X on it and still open up the disk drive. So kind of
Nice.
cool. kind of
Yeah.
cool. So
That is cool. Yeah, that is a pretty rare and cool console for sure.
Yeah,
You don't see a lot of those.
No, and it's actually my daily driver for my Genesis and CD. You know, I use a lot of this stuff. So it's some people are like, whoa, you put that on a shelf. It's like, no, I'm going to use it because it might as well. And especially when it comes to capacitors, which we'll talk about in a minute. You know, it's good to have these things plugged in. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Another one, if I may, then is my Daiei Hawks Nintendo 64. So I don't know if you've ever seen this one before, but this is Japan only. Actually, if I remember properly, it was only sold at, I can't remember if it was a Daiei Stadium or whatever, but it was a baseball team in Japan. Their colors were orange and black, and it was sold at their team store. And it's a specific Nintendo 64 for it. It does not use the same orange as like the Funtastic orange, and it's not the same bottom either. It's an actual specific blend of orange and black specifically for this Japanese version of the Nintendo 64. And orange is my favorite color, so I was like, I got to get this. This is weird. And I got a really good deal on it, and it's one of those things where I was like, all right, I'm going to jump on it on eBay. Why not? So that's
is the controller also that color, like half orange, half black?
Yep. Okay. And I got that too. Although the analog, or no, the memory port on the bottom is not good. It doesn't read memory cards, sadly.
Okay.
So I don't use it much.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the Nintendo 64 controller. Actually, a lot of my early content was ripping on the 64 controller, just kind of for fun.
It is a weirdly shaped controller, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
it's also underutilized. Like there's a whole left section that's barely used, you know. So that's kind of my thing. As far as my rarest console goes, though, because I'm sure you want to see that. This one has a special story.
Oh, I thought you were going to stand up for a second there.
I will. This is the Mountain Dew Xbox. So there was only 5,000.
Oh yeah, I've
of
seen
made.
it.
Yeah. So this thing is sick. Yeah. So this has a special story. This isn't the one that we had, but my brother in high school was trying to win this thing. So if you don't know how this worked, you had to get 550 caps, Mountain Dew caps, and redeem the codes on them. And then between, I think it was April and June, or maybe April and July, there would be random times where the system would become available, and you could redeem those caps and then spend $100, and then you would win, where you would buy the Xbox, essentially. And like I said, there's only about 5,500 of them made. And my brother, he got enough of those caps. I helped him some with that and stuff. And every time it became available, he would get there, and it would sell out. We had satellite internet. I don't know if you remember how bad that was back in the 2000s, but it was like 2 seconds ping essentially. Yeah. And so if you got on, you could have to wait forever to get through. You were never going to be the first in line, so he didn't get it. We ended up never getting it. But my dad recognized my brother's hard work and trying to get that, and he ended up just buying him an Xbox like after the whole thing ended, where he had no chances anymore. My dad at Sam's Club picked up one of those like combo packs, the value packs, and here you go. Like you put in the work, you know, you deserve it, kind of thing. Because my brother, like, he wasn't just drinking Mountain Dew. Like he was going to, like, they would collect like the bottles because we would drink sodas at school and stuff like that. So he like talked to the janitors there, and they let him go through those bags of the soda bottles to find the caps and stuff. So like it was kind of gross if you think about it, but he was going through and doing the work to try and get these
dedication.
caps.
Yeah.
He really wanted an Xbox to play Halo. You know what I mean? That's how he thought he could do it. And so it still, at the end of the day, worked out. So yeah, that was this one here, though, I found on Marketplace. It was another person's brother who did win it, and he kind of fell out of gaming, so he gave it to his brother. And he, it was just one of those things where they needed space. There was time to kind of move on, and they had it listed for a while. I messaged him. I was like, hey, this is really important. This is something I've been looking for a while. And we talked back and forth. I don't even remember how much I paid for it at this point. I think it was over $400. I don't remember. And so I got it recapped. So when we talked about the caps, a lot of Xboxes, I'm sure you know this by now, if they were made before, I want to say May of 2004, it's been a minute since I looked this up, but they used, instead of having like, the little coin batteries for the clock, the Xbox is a Pentium 3 computer. It needs a lot of juice to keep the clock. So they just said, we're going to throw a giant capacitor in these bad boys. The problem is that, capacitor quality back then was not good. It was especially bad from like the late 90s to early 2000s, and they leak a lot. So that's why you hear a lot of people, with these retro consoles, they get them recapped because they leak, they ruin the boards. And sadly, this one, it did leak. It does turn on, it does play games, but sometimes the disk drive randomly opens, which then you really can't keep playing the game and stuff like that. And you'd think it might be a disk drive error, but it's usually because of the capacitor damage. So that's why, a lot of Game Gears also don't work anymore, because their capacitors were infamous for being terrible. So
Does that have controllers that are specific to the Mountain Dew
I don't
Xbox
think it
too?
does. I
Okay.
can't remember. I believe it only has. I think it came with just a regular black
Just
Xbox
console?
controller.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay,
it's just
I
a
gotcha.
console. So
Okay.
Yeah.
You made a comment earlier about stuff just kind of sitting on the shelf. So I want to switch gears briefly and talk about, complete in box or sealed games. You said a little bit that you don't have many. Tell me your take on that.
So with sealed games, it's just not a thing that interests me. When I buy games, I want to be playing them for the most part. Like I'd rather spend $200 on a Silent Hill I'm going to play instead of $200 on a sealed game I will never play. You know what I mean? That's kind of my take on it. And when it comes to like new in-box consoles, I mean, maybe like I bought one of those Zelda Switch Lites because why not? Like, I had a little bit extra money, so I just bought one for $200. It's probably going to stay in there forever, and it's a little cardboard sarcophagus. I got lucky though one time. The Dreamcast has a special place in my heart. I love the system. When I was getting back into retro first wave, if you will, in 2009, I bought a Dreamcast at a Goodwill for $10 with the controller, Code Veronica, and it came with a sealed Duke Nukem game for $10 for the whole kit and caboodle. And I really started getting into the Dreamcast and stuff. So I was always like, if I ever fall into a complete in box, that'd be really cool. And on Marketplace one day, someone posted that they had a brand new Dreamcast. They wanted 400, I think, for as well. And I had no reason to doubt it. I posted a video of it. Like all the components are still sealed, the cables and all that kind of stuff. And what really sold me that it was actually new was that not only did they have a brand new Dreamcast, but they also had 4 sealed games with it. So I'm like, okay, well, if you have 4 sealed games, then I'm guessing this thing was actually never used. And what I love about these too is, it's got the old Best Buy stickers on them. When you can see, the dates that they were priced, $9.99,
$10. Okay,
yeah, and you can see that it was, priced on November 14th of 2001. So,
wow.
It came with Jet Set, Blitz 2000, which nothing crazy. Well, Jet Set, I guess that one's a lot of people. NBA
It's one of my
2K1.
favorite Dreamcast games, Jet Set. Yeah.
Oh, there you go, yeah. And then Sword of the Berserker as well. And these were all $10 games. So what I think happened was this was a late, when they were clearancing out the Dreamcast, this person just bought it and they never got around to it. So yeah, I think I ended up buying the system for $400, and I can't remember what I paid for the games. It was a couple years ago at this point. But yeah, so that I have no reason to doubt that it's been used. But yeah, other than that, the controller's like the only thing that I like to buy new in box at this point for the most part, because it's just cool. I have the idea of one day maybe opening up a couple just to be like a fresh PS2 box opening or something like that. But other than that, with the consoles, that Dreamcast, it probably is leaking already. You know what I mean? If it's just sitting in there, like especially Game Boys and all that stuff. When I see those people with new in-box ones, I'm like, those things, they're never going to work. So
yeah. What about graded games? How do you, I assume I know the answer to this question, but I feel like I'll ask just to hear your take. But how do you feel?
I have no worries for folks who do grading. It's not my thing. Again, it's just I have money I want to spend, and if I'm going to spend it, I want it to be on something I'm going to use. If you're into the grading games thing, that's fine. I know a lot of people were concerned, grading games are raising the price of games and things like that. I'm like, not really. It was really graded games that were raising the price of graded games. You know what I mean? And sure, it was affecting the sealed game market, but that also isn't my speed, so it didn't really bother me either. So
yeah, for people who are watching, so I think that it's okay for some things to be graded, maybe more rare stuff and stuff like that for collectors and things. But when you're grading, like a game that came out 5 years ago, that to me is just very silly to do. And I won a giveaway of a graded sealed game. It's Call of Duty Modern Warfare for Xbox 360. It's sealed, and it's behind. Well, it's actually right there. Yep. So right there. So I've said that if I get 1,000 followers, okay, this is me saying this, 1,000 followers on Instagram and on YouTube, I will break that open on a live stream. I will smash it with a hammer and break it open and unseal it. So
click that subscribe button.
Absolutely, 100%. So yeah. So graded games, definitely hit or miss, just depending. But what about? So I watched a video the other day, and maybe you've seen it. I think it was on TikTok. And they were going around asking people this question, and this is not one I've had on my past shows. So you're the first to get this question from me, so no pressure.
Okay.
But what? Who is responsible for inflated prices of games? Collectors or resellers?
Oh boy. So I heard you on another pod discussing the reseller question, and I think It's really the symbiotic relationship, right? Because I wouldn't have some of these things in here if it wasn't for resellers. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a lot of the big ticket items if it wasn't for resellers and things like that. So I think it's just shoot, it's probably partially my fault too, making videos about this stuff. You know what I mean? It's all cyclical, yeah.
Or paying for it, right? People have to pay those prices. But
Yeah.
I think my issue is that you have people who, let's say, person A sells a game to person B for $5, but person B's whole goal is to sell that to make money. So then they sell it for $7 to person C, who then sells it for $10. And that, I think, is where the problem comes. It's kind of like, I don't do Pokemon. I think you collect Pokemon, correct?
So we actually play the game. Like my kids, my wife and I, we love playing it. And some of the few things I have is graded Pokemon, but it's only because we happen to have gotten the Bubble Mew and stuff. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is I assume it's the same. I think, you see these videos of people waiting in line and buying 20 different boxes just so they can resell them, and I just think that's silly. Like it's just inflates the.
It is silly, and that one though is because that's a little different, I guess, because when it comes to like retro games, in my opinion, we know the quantity for a lot of these games. I hear people often talk about like, oh, my rarest thing's like Earthbound. It's probably not. It's probably not the rarest thing you own. It's probably the most expensive thing that you own, but it probably isn't the most rare thing that you own. There's a good chance that a variant controller that you have is more rare than Earthbound or Chrono Trigger. But it's there's that demand for it. There's also that mythos of it and all that kind of stuff too that helps inflate those things. But I think.
It's definitely not Poop Slinger anymore, right?
Poop Slinger, which that's such a fun story. With the store, have you seen the stores getting 6 random copies recently?
I have, I have. So
I feel like there's someone out there who's been waiting for this moment to just kind of poop on the Poop Slinger party.
Well, there maybe there's like 20 years from now to be another game where it'll be the Poop Slinger of 2050. Who knows? So
who knows? But yeah, I think
Mario Sunshine. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But I do think that collectors play a big part into it. I think there is hype. I think I see some videos of people saying like, oh, I just picked that up because it's rare. I picked it up because it's limited. It's hard to find. And I felt like a lot of the stuff that I showed here it is important to me. Like that Mountain Dew Xbox has a story for my brother and I. Like I wanted one of those because of that. The JVC XI was something that a good friend of mine turned me on to, and he's like, hey, this has like really good functionality. It has upgraded audio. Like some people think it's the best way to play Genesis games as far as the audio goes. So like I'm using it. It's not just sitting on a shelf for me. And even the Diehawk Nintendo 64, I just unplugged that for this video. That's my 64 that I use when I'm playing 64 games. And even any of the games that I buy, I always generally plan on playing, unless it's like a lot. I know I saw another video you talk about buying, lots. That is one of the best ways to bulk up a collection is going on a marketplace and eBay or any of those things and just, buying a PlayStation lot. And maybe you only want 1 or 2 things from it. Then you go to a store and all of a sudden you're the reseller, right? You're going to, I don't sell personally. I trade in almost everything if I want to. I don't have the time for it. I don't even have Facebook anymore. So like I don't even go on Marketplace anymore. So I trade stuff in, so that's as far as I go. But it sucks because I should have Marketplace access because boy, it was some of the best stuff I found was off of there. So
I've never had any success on Marketplace.
Really?
That's not. Yeah, that's not.
I think it depends on location too. So
true. Yeah.
I think
true.
if I can toot the horn here too, Metro Detroit, we have a really good retro scene. Like there's so many retro stores.
I would have never guessed that you're in Detroit. I mean, I don't know what.
I don't know if I can adjust the camera too much, but there's a giant lion up there too. So
wow. Okay. All right.
But yeah. So being in the Metro Detroit area though, like. You probably see I commonly go into Retro Taku, Disc Replay, a Game Pawn. Like there's so many within 10 to 15 miles of each other that there's a really good scene for that here, and there's a lot of people bringing stuff in, and it's a metro area too, so there's millions of people, so there's always inventory moving around. So my access isn't going to necessarily be the same access as I'm not sure where you're based out of exactly. You could be in a rural area of your state, so that also changes things.
Yeah, one thing I do is I travel a lot, and I love going to game stores wherever I go. And I think I mentioned to you I was in Detroit actually a couple months ago, and I went to Game Pawn is actually where I found my copy of Super Bowling, and it was a great price. And so shout out to Game Pawn. That's a great store. If you're ever in Detroit, you guys should go there for sure. So
yeah, that was the Ann Arbor location you said, right? Because that just opened about a month ago. So
no, it was the Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti. Okay.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
Yep.
So What about on your streams? I know you do a lot of streaming. You stream pretty much. Is it every day, or how often is
No,
it?
I wish.
Okay,
But no.
I feel like it's. I feel like it's every day. I'm scrolling on TikTok and it's like DMCPRCT is live, and I'm like, oh, what a surprise!
I'm live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we do bonus streams on Thursdays. So, like for instance, I like to do charity a lot. Like when I have a chance, I like to do it. So we did a Gamers for Giving, Gamers Outreach thing, and we had a certain stretch goal. So if we hit $2,000, there was a 20-hour bonus stream, and spun a wheel for anybody who donated, and then they could pick a game up to 20 hours, and then I play it every Thursday till we beat it. So, but yeah, that's when I stream. But you had a question. I'm sorry.
Did I? I don't know. I don't. I think well, the next thing I was going to ask is if you're playing through anything currently, like what's your
Oh yeah. So currently we're playing through Kingdom Hearts on Mondays and Tuesdays, which has been pretty good. I'm gonna be just blunt and say I don't get it as much as other people. I'm not a huge Disney person though. So
this is your first time playing it?
First time. Yep. Almost everything we play on stream is a first playthrough. Next year we're gonna be doing a lot of like sequels and replays. So that'll be kind of fun. But so yeah, it's mostly first playthroughs on there. We just added it up the other day too. We're at over 150 games that we've played through on stream. Been doing it for 5 years now, I think 4 years. But yeah, so we're doing Kingdom Hearts Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday we just started up. My goodness, I feel bad because it was yesterday and I can't even remember. Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to think because I scrolled through briefly and I don't remember what I saw you playing.
I feel like this needs to be edited out because we were playing and I was enjoying it.
No editing.
Last Guardian.
We go
The Last Guardian
through.
for PlayStation 4. I was always thinking it's retro, but it's not. It doesn't have to be retro.
Okay.
And then Thursdays we're working through Tecmo's Deception, which we'll be playing after we record this today. Which no rush, by the way. We can keep talking for as long as we want to. I'm having fun.
Perfect. What is Tecmo's Deception?
So it is a trap.
Whenever I hear Tecmo, I think like Tecmo Super Bowl or Tecmo basketball. So
it's so funny they throw their name in front of everything, but it's
Okay.
it's a what they call a trap 'em up. You play this one in first person, and you're like a demon lord of a castle who is a brother betrayed you on your wedding day or something like that, and you were cast off to be this new demon lord of a castle. And essentially, people are trying to break in or kill you, and you set traps and lure them into these traps to harvest their souls or turn them into gold and stuff like that.
Okay.
So we're about halfway through. It's weird, excuse me, but it's fun. It's different. I love so many of these games. Like when I got into the streaming space, it was originally to play a lot of the retro games that like I never played because when we were growing up, it was basically birthdays or Christmas. That's when you got a new game, and that was it. To supplant that, we got a lot of demo discs. You remember like the PlayStation magazines that came with little demos? So we played a lot of demo discs.
Xbox had them too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of my experience growing up was actually just playing like the first couple stages of games. And then, maybe getting just a couple until I was a teenager when I started getting my own money and then, it started getting a little bit more broad. So yeah, that was a lot of my experience was through demo discs and stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
But
cool.
but getting back to that, a lot of it is first playthroughs for games that I never played, and then we started doing the subscriber's choice thing a couple of years ago, and that really has broadened my horizons to games I never would have picked, like Tecmo's Deception. Even never would have picked that one. Last Guardian, nope. One of my favorite ones recently that we played was Forgotten Worlds for the Sega Genesis. Hey, I got that right here. Look at that.
Okay.
Forgotten Worlds. I did not know what to expect, and it's a 360 on-rail shooter, so you can rotate yourself as you're like moving on rail essentially, or the screen is moving rather. And it's just it was a very tight 2-hour, 3-hour challenging fun shoot 'em up. It was really good. So yeah.
Speaking of challenging, what's the most difficult game you've ever played?
You mentioned it on a couple of your pods, and it's the one that kept coming up to me. It's Cuphead. I did play through Cuphead, and I beat that one. I'm not a Souls guy. I tried playing through Dark Souls, and I was just like, man, I want to have fun when I'm playing games.
Oh, yeah,
so,
for sure.
That one was tough. We beat that one. Well, I did that on my own, actually. That was before I was streaming, but I did beat Cuphead. That was tough. I actually found the penultimate boss, was the King of Cards. I think that was his name. No,
I've not made it that far.
Okay.
You're a much better man than I am. I gave up. I said,
well, a friend got
no
it
more.
for me for Christmas, and I was like, all right, if I get a gifted game or something like that, I generally try to put priority onto it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to beat this game, and here we go. And it was, she really wanted me to play through that one too, so I'm like, I'm going to stick with it. And that second last boss though was a week or two of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any other stuff to show off, or have we done
I got a
all
couple.
this? Let's keep going. Yeah, what else you got?
I love to bring up this one here because it's You wouldn't think it's a great game here, but McDonald's Treasureland Adventure for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
it is a super, super tight game. It's made by Treasure. I think it's actually one of their first games they ever made. Soundtrack is incredible. There's like a track later on in the game that is basically like progressive rock. It is so good. It's unexpected. It was another game. We were doing a special stream day. We did one called Garbage Day. That's what I called it. And I put on like a construction vest and all this kind of stuff. We were playing garbage games. And someone suggested this one, like, ironically, because they thought I wouldn't like it. And I was like, this is actually awesome. And it turns out this is like a hidden gem. People love this game kind of thing. And I was like, well, I got to get this for the collection. And a lot of times that's what happens. Like, if it's a game I don't own, I might use a flash cart for it, or we occasionally emulate. Like, if it's being tricky, some games won't work on the flash carts and stuff. And so I beat this one on emulation. Like, I have to own it. Like, I loved this so much, I need to own this one. And yeah, that's one of my big suggestions here is this guy, because it's
better than McKids, is what you're
definitely
saying.
better than
a better
McKids.
McDonald's game.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's actually the second McDonald's game we've played on stream. We played Mick and Matt Global Gladiators as well for the Sega Genesis, which I thought was all right. It's a Tommy Tallarico soundtrack, which is generally good too. So that was nice.
Have you ever heard of The Ring: Terror's Realm for Dreamcast, and have you played it?
No, I've not heard of that.
Okay,
one.
so one of my longtime subscribers for Reels Y'all recommended that to me, and we played it on stream, and it's pretty bad. So I highly recommend checking it out for your garbage day or whatever it is you call it. That'd be a good addition. Yeah. So
yeah, we did play. Speaking of bad games too, we did play through Ball and Wonder World or Ball and Wonderland or whatever it is. That Yuji Naka, I think that was his name, right? The Sega Sonic guy. I feel Gunpei Yokoi is the one I thought I was mixing him up with.
Not heard of that
Yuji
one.
Naka. It was his last game before he got busted for like racketeering in Japan. So, so yeah, it's very much in his style. Like the characters move like Sonic Adventure characters and whatnot. It's a pretty bad game. It's super long, like 20 plus hours for how bad the game is. But like I said, I always try to find one good thing. And there was one stage where I'm like, this has got to be the one they used to sell to like investors or something, because it was legitimately good. Like it was there was some effects that were impressive. It had a day-night cycle to it that was like super charming. And I was like, okay, I hate to be like that guy, but like, if you can just make it this far to this one level in this really bad game, you're gonna have a good time there. But the rest of the game is terrible.
But then after that, just shut it off.
Yeah, just shut it off. It's brutally unfair at times and things like that. So. And one thing I just wanted to bring up, this is I think the last piece that I had, unless you're read forever, but because we discussed it. This was just one of those I had to grab it. It was one of those pieces that I was just like trying to find for a long time.
Okay, so I was going to ask if you got that day one or if you picked it up. Okay, yeah.
So as we got older, and things were going better in our life, I guess you could say, my parents started buying us games on Easter. Like that was just all of a sudden a tradition that just kind of started. And my brother, he had really wanted Narc, if you've ever remembered that game for the PlayStation 2. Yeah. It was bad. It was not good. I think he beat it in like 3 hours. Super short, not a good game. And my parents were like, oh, like, sorry, we got you a dud kind of thing. So they ended up returning it, which I thought was kind of crazy because it was from a grocery store. So I'm surprised they even let them return it. And they ended up getting Resident Evil 4 for him, though. And that's kind of where that took off for me. He played through it, and I was kind of scared. I'm like, I don't know if I want to play this. Like, I hear it's scary. And then here we go.
So those have the little cards in them, right? That say like this number out of so many. I have one too. I want to see how close our numbers are.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the most like frequently common missing piece from this as well.
Yeah. So all right.
I'm gonna hold it close to the chest.
Does your number start with a 2?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we're way.
Wait,
off.
hold on. Higher or lower though? What do you think I have?
Higher.
Lower.
Wow. Okay. I'm in the 2500s.
Okay, I'm 15,678.
So I'm 25,362 there.
Yeah,
okay, very cool. Wouldn't that be weird if it was like one
off? It was
that
close. Yeah.
And Grant, who plays games, if you're watching, I know that DMCPCRT hasn't stood up yet, but
if you'd like me to, I can stand up and try and find something. I'm trying to think if there's.
It doesn't count if you do it like when you're told to do it. I don't know. It's hard, but that's okay. It's not a problem, but.
I always just like to see if there's anything else that
I
always like talking about like cool scores and stuff, but at this point it's almost impossible to have any. my biggest one, my favorite one, and this is something that I like to do as a collector, and I bring this up, is I have Skies here, and you'll see it's got that 8 on it. $8, because that's what I got it for from a Salvation Army back in 2009 or something. And even then, Skies was like a $30 or $40 game back then. But something I do like to do is like video rental stores or something like that, a game I got back then, I don't take the stickers off. I like to keep them on. I think it's a fun part of their story. Again, I generally buy the games to play them, so that, that's just part of their story and the character, in my opinion, is if it's got that marking of a video store on it or something like that. Now, if it's got some initials...
What about a cartridge, and then someone took a Sharpie and wrote, Mark Smith or something?
That I would probably take off because, but even still, I have a couple, my Earthbound was given to me by a friend because he knew I was getting the retro scene and stuff, and he gave me a couple Nintendo 64 games too, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to get rid of his name markings on this because it's
Where do you guys find these people? I don't have any friends that give me free games. There's people give me free stuff. I'm like, I want free stuff. That'd be... So
I don't know. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate. I will definitely say that there were just some great people out there, and that was really, really cool of them. I would say their name, but respecting their privacy.
No, that's fair.
But their names on the cartridges and stuff too, and it's just kind of like, I'm going to keep that on there because it's part of their story. And really, maybe it was those kind of things that made me start evaluating even Sharpie and stuff on there, because I don't ever have a plan to sell this stuff. I'm kind of, as I get older and my kids, thankfully they're into video games, but I'm not expecting them to want this stuff. And there's going to be a day, I'm sure, but I don't care.
I've never traded in or sold any game I have in this room, and I have some duplicates, but I just have them in a box as duplicates, and a couple are repros that I realized that were repros, and so I use them as kind of educational material, as this is what a repro and this is what a real looks like, so that people can kind of see that. So
there's my question for you then. What is your thoughts on the reproduction cartridges or the knockoff flash carts and that whole scene? I want to know what your thought is as a retro player or enjoyer too.
I mean, it's a less expensive way to enjoy the game. I think I don't have a problem with it as long as you say hey, this is a reproduction cart. So there's some game stores you'll go to and they won't label their carts as so, or there are some that do, and I appreciate that. But I think if you're trying to put it by as the real legit thing and selling it for the real price, then I think that's an issue.
Yeah, that's for sure a problem. And, I would hope that if it ever happens, it's not intentional. I know people were saying, GameStop's never going to check cartridges, but they actually sent out, videos on how to open up Game Boy Advance cartridges and stuff like that for Pokemon to, teach their staff what to look for fakes and whatnot. Of course, it's going to happen, especially with how many GameStops are out there and stuff. When I first started getting into this, some of my earliest content was I would do packages from AliExpress and stuff like that because I was just getting bootlegs because I thought it was fun. And that was another early content idea I had. I was I'd love to do the bootleg consoles and stuff like that. But what I have found I enjoy is having translations on carts. We played through Sweet Home for the NES, which as a Resident Evil fan, I'm sure you're familiar with that. But anyone who's not, Sweet Home was the original. They were originally going to remake this NES game or Famicom game. It was a Japan-only horror RPG, turn-based RPG, and it was, again, Japan only, based off of a TV movie of all things, too. And I was fascinated by it, too. The soundtrack, that's a big thing for me with video game soundtracks. I love them. It's some of my earliest gaming memories is because of video game soundtracks. And the Sweet Home soundtrack, though, is awesome. If you've never heard it, it's worth listening to. Very, very good. It's a Capcom game. And, so I have that as a translation bootleg NES cart,
So I have two things to add to that. Number one is, I don't know if this is considered a bootleg because it never actually came out per se, but I have a copy of Resident Evil 1.5 that I've been trying to play through several times on stream, but it just loads so slowly that it's so impossible to play. So hopefully I can get it to work at some point. And then the second thing, let's see, soundtracks. You were talking about soundtracks. So have you seen the episode of the video game music trivia that we did on my show probably a year ago?
I didn't. Okay, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, episode, I want to say I don't even know if it's listed in the podcast. It might be listed separately, but it's Video Game Music Trivia Challenge. And we do 15 songs, two of my friends, Downstab Official and Yeah, That's Retro. They both are competing against each other. You can watch it on YouTube. I think it got taken down from TikTok because of copyright with songs and stuff, but it's still, as far as I know, it's still available on YouTube. And I want to do another one of these, not with music, but if you're telling me you're a soundtrack guy, maybe I should do another one with music. I don't know.
I'd be down.
And,
I'd love to do that. That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's Retro, who's in the first one. He wants to do it again, and I'm looking for a challenger. So if you'd be down to challenge him, we can find a time that works for all of us and get it done. So, and those I do live. So that we live stream and have people join in. So, do you have any advice for people who want to get into either streaming, collecting, winning Switch 2s at the arcade?
Let's talk about a little bit of each. When it comes to streaming, my number one thing, content creation and streaming, it's so cliche, but the answer or the suggestion simply is just do it. Just if you want to do it, just do it. Don't worry about the technology. Don't worry about how good your computer is. Don't worry about how good you are of a game player and things like that. The first thing to focus on is you, because if you're going to be streaming, you're the one talking. You're the one who's doing the entire broadcast. So work on you and figure it out, and you'll find your way. That's what I always tell people. When it comes to content too, just make the things you want to make. That's what I started doing, and going from there, and also be receptive to feedback and things like that too. Some of my early videos are terrible in my opinion now, but I'm still glad I made them. So
yeah, I've been told, like, some of my early podcasts, I have no games behind me, and someone said, you look like a serial killer just sitting there in like a dark room, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, it kind of does, but it's kind of grown a little bit. Yeah, and I would add to that too that don't be afraid to reach out to people, because the community is really great, really nice. And I know I mentioned Matty Newey earlier, but he was one of the first people I reached out to and said, hey, I got this idea for a podcast. He's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Yeah, I'll be on it. And he's got, several followers. And I was like, that's cool. Yep. I'm a nobody. So
yeah, when I first started getting into it, you had Lost in the 80s and 90s. I always say he's like one of the godfathers of retro TikTok because he was there, and he immediately, I would say, took me under his wing or whatever, but super generous and super kind, and any feedback and a lot of just motivation, like, hey, keep posting, this is good stuff. And Matty knew he was already established as well, and I was able to riff back and forth with him on videos and things. And there was a whole community that was there, and then a lot of us that started around at the same time. I'm not sure if you've seen DG 2009. She's fantastic, a great content creator. You should check out her stuff for sure. She came up right around the same time I did. She started, and she's doing great now, and it's awesome to see that with a lot of people. I saw you had Age of Retro on too, another fantastic one. The whole scene, it might seem tight knit, but really we're all willing to help each other out, and it's fun. When it comes to the streaming and stuff, though, like I said, just don't worry too much about the hardware and all that kind of stuff. Because I see some people that when they start, they want to spend $1,000 on a camera and $2,000 on a computer, and it's like, my computer I use for real hardware is used parts. Like when I say real hardware streaming, but it's not that bad. And even when it comes to streaming, you don't need a retro tink to start and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
There's $10 pieces out there. Figure it out what you want to do first, and then go from there. And even with the content too. So now when it comes to collecting, though, it's going to be kind of the same thing for me. I buy with a purpose. That's always what I like to say. I don't call this a collection. I call it a curation, because I'm not just going to buy every game that I see. If I did that, there wouldn't be any space in this room that's already way too small. But every game that I buy, I intend to play, and I take suggestions to heart. I like it when people really seem passionate about a game. I would write it down in a little notepad that I have on my phone, and all that kind of stuff. I just picked up a golf game. I love golf games. They're some of my favorite to play. And someone was like, you need to pick up this Irem Skins Golf for Super Nintendo. And I was like, all right, I'm in for this. Why not? You know what I mean? What is it? And if I don't like it, if it's a game that was recommended to me and I don't like it, I also don't have a problem being like, okay, let's trade it in, even if I get $1. You know what I mean? I don't care. Yeah. So, it's not that big of a deal. And then when it comes to arcade games and you want to win prizes, then go into it knowing you might lose.
Sure.
Because that could be very much like gambling, I suppose. Maybe figure out a game that you're really good at, and also do the math first. Like when we won the Switch 2, there was a lot of things that were in our favor. We went on a half price day. We bought 2,000 worth of credits when they were doing a buy 10 get 10 free kind of promotion. So if you can find a local arcade that does that kind of local too, good luck doing this at round one. It probably won't be possible. Those big massive chains, because they know they don't want you to win. They don't want you to win without spending double the value and stuff.
Sure.
That's it
great.
Too. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty good advice. No, that's awesome. So so again, streaming is Monday through Wednesday, right? On is
Yep.
it only on TikTok that you're
Nope.
live or
We're on
Twitch?
Twitch and
Okay.
TikTok. We're trying to get to 600 followers on Twitch. We do
Okay.
that. We'll do a Metroid Prime playthrough. That's our goal,
Okay.
follower goal for that one. But on TikTok, it's set up on both. It's just a better stream quality over on Twitch as far
Okay,
as like
and
bit rate and all that kind of stuff.
DMCPCRT is the name on both of those as well.
DMCPCRT. Yep. For now,
Okay.
who knows if it'll change.
Okay. Other socials that you have besides
Yeah,
those?
I'm on Insta, I'm on YouTube, and I'm on TikTok. TikTok's the primary, but all three get posted.
Okay.
It just goes to TikTok first, and then I post.
Okay.
It just pretty much gets reposted over to those two. So
Okay. Very good.
It's almost all short form too.
Yeah. Well, no, this has been awesome. I've seen cool stuff that the controller stuff was great. I love doing this because I get to meet new people. I get to see stuff I've never seen before, and hopefully people learn some stuff. Again, when I first started collecting, I didn't know what I was doing, and I bought a few reproduction cartridges because I was like, oh, cool, this is cheaper than the other ones. It must be great. And someone's like, no, that's a fake cartridge. So it's great to hopefully educate some people and get people back in collecting. So
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
yeah, no, I appreciate you being here. We can make time. Hopefully, we'll see you again on a video game music trivia challenge. I hope we'll try and work that out. But guys, thank you for watching and tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Video Game Collectors on Call. Later, guys.
Cheers.